Good morning, everybody. It is so good to be here. Okay, we're going to get started. Well, I'm Darlene Gagnon, and I am the 360 entrepreneur, and we get together every single month and we talk about a topic that is so relevant to our life as an entrepreneur. And sometimes it's formal and I've got a PowerPoint, and sometimes I just want to have that one on one conversation with you. And the idea here is for us to understand that as an entrepreneur, we're moving in and out of every aspect of our life, right? We're moving into our business. We're dealing with our employees. We might be going to community events. We may be dealing with our marriage. We may be dealing with our families and our children. And we may be dealing with ourselves. And more importantly, we might be dealing with whatever's going on internally. And one aspect that I have found as an entrepreneur is that having a spiritual life gives me this baseline by which to make decisions. And it's a very complicated topic because I have a core value of believing that the one way that people really learn is by learning from the experiences of others, but then making their own decision from within without external pressure. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my story. And I hope that my story resonates with someone to seek out a spiritual life. And it's not a conversation where I feel that I want to dictate what you should be doing, even though I find that when you've got a solid spiritual life, you've got this foundation by which to build upon. And remember, I always say that your business is only as good as what's going on in your head and in your heart, and in your spirit and at home, right? So, part of having stability in your head and in your heart for me is really having a strong connection or a reliance on a spiritual life to navigate me through choppy waters. But also, I believe that it's a very beautiful thing. It's not necessarily a situation where I only rely on my spiritual life during, downtime. I really rely on my spiritual life to find happiness and to feel peaceful about the situations that I'm in, good or bad, finding a sense of gratitude and appreciation for the life that I'm living right now. So let's get started. I want to first talk a little bit about who I am and just a little bit about why I'm doing what I'm doing. I have a wonderful husband. His name is Denny Gagnon, and he runs our promotional products company. I run our digital marketing agency. And the one thing that I have found, um, developing this 360 entrepreneurial brand is there's a lot of couples that are working together that may not know how to work together. And so we wanted to help those entrepreneurs with that. But also, even if you are married to an entrepreneur, but you're not one yourself, I felt like the wisdom and the knowledge that I've been able to achieve over the last decade plus of being in business for myself is information that I can share in the future. Plus, I've got kids that are entrepreneurs. So hopefully, this is a legacy I can leave behind. So learn from my mistakes and learn from the things that I do well and from the things that I, maybe messed up on and the lessons I've learned. If that can help fast track you, then I've done my job. So let's just talk about developing a spiritual life. I grew up not in the church and then in the church. When I was little, we didn't really go to church. And then there was a point somewhere in my mother's life where she decided that we needed to go to church. And so we went to a non-denominational Christian church. And, I stayed with that faith for quite some time. However, I became an unwed mother. And back in those days, it was just not the norm to be an unwed mother. I mean, it just was nothing like it is today. It was very challenging in that aspect. And so, and of course, when my mom was younger, it was horrific. They would send you to unwed mother homes and things of that nature. So I really found a lot of my attempts to go into church based on guilt. I felt very haunted by the mistake of being an unwed mother, even though he is a complete gift in my life. He is such a big teddy bear. And I'm so grateful that God gave him to me. But I felt that really I was mortified with this aspect of being a single parent and being unwed. And, was I going to go to hell and what was going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. So I stuck with the church. Eventually I did come to a point where I realized that what was being said and what was being done in the church were two different things. And so I kind of started distancing myself. I got wise upon it. And also growing up in a very volatile home, I started working on myself through therapy. And through that process, I started questioning, well, if there's a God, why did this God allow this young little girl that wasn't even in grade school to be sexually molested? I mean, how could you do that? And I went through this period of really thinking there just cannot be a God that would allow something like that to happen. And if you are a God, I mean, who are you? And so there was a real reconciliation that I needed to figure out. And I even went through a period of being agnostic. Maybe there's not even a God. And so I went and really, unfortunately, raising my children, I kind of started going to church with them, out of that guilt mechanism of feeling so bad, like I was the worst person in the whole world. Can you imagine feeling like you're the worst person in the whole world because you were an unwed mom and decided to keep kids and raise kids, etc. Anyway, that's the least of our issues in today's society, right? So, I I really went through that period where I thought, I'm just not so sure. I'm not sure about this church thing. I really don't understand it. And so we just stopped going to church. I stopped taking my kids to church. I just stopped. I stopped and I focused on my career and I focused on doing things with my kids and we were building family businesses, et cetera. And we just did not go. And I thought, to be honest with you, I thought the topic was so critical that I really wouldn't even talk to my children about it because I didn't want to persuade them one way or the other because I didn't know what I believed. And so probably I would say in 2014, 2015, I started saying, all right, I'm going to start doing my due diligence. There was some traumatic things that were happening in my life simultaneously. My ex-husband had had a heart attack. My son was having heart surgery. My father had dementia. I had left a corporate career I loved and I was in this entrepreneurial space. I felt very insecure. We had a cousin that had cancer and I was helping her, taking care of her. And this was all kind of piling on at once. And I was sick myself. So I decided, all right, I need something here to help me. And I started this journey of exploring different faiths. I went to the Buddhist temple, I went to the Catholic Church, I went to Mormon, Methodist, Presbyterian, and my goal was to really start searching for the truth. And in the process of searching for the truth, I did say a little prayer. I will never forget where I was at either. But I said, all right, God, if you're real, you need to help me find you. And I need to understand what really is the truth. Because there's all these religions, there's all these faiths. And also, I got a problem with you. I got a problem with um, reconciling how, if you're such a great, loving God, why did you allow something like that to happen to this precious little baby girl? And I got to tell you, when you become a parent, you become even crystal clear on what your parents did or did not do for you. And you have that contrast comparison. And I thought, boy, if I knew this happened to my daughters, I'd be overly protective. So if God, you are a father and you're protective, then why aren't you, um, why didn't you step up and protect me? And it left me being molested, not just in that one little situation, but over a couple of times. It left me so broken and so damaged that, I was broken during childhood and then came out broken in the world. And I was self sabotaging myself, right? Because I was so broken. And then I allowed others to break me. So by the time I was dealing with this, I had spent 4 decades of some sort of abusive pattern, right? And so I thought, well, God, if you're so loving and you're so powerful and you're so great, why didn't you take care of that? And I did come to those findings. And my personal conclusions were based out of I had a couple of books that really shifted my thinking spiritually. One of them was um, Return to Love by Miriam Williamson. And this whole concept of everything starts with love. And I did come to this divine conclusion, also, that there was a God. And let me just start with that. But I want to go, and I'll circle back to the return to love section too, because there is a sense of love of why God allows certain things to happen. But there was something of a mixture of mixing science and spirituality together. Now, I don't want you to think that I am talking about God in a scientific standpoint, but I am thinking of God in a creation standpoint. And when I started really taking long walks in parks and being involved in nature, I kept thinking about our ecosystem and how it was created and how our body functions and how we have children. And I was thinking, there's got to be more to this life than us just existing. We didn't just appear. The creation is so complicated. The ecosystem of how oxygen works and how plants grow, and looking at the personalities and the knowledge that animals have. And I just kept thinking there's got to be more to this life. And really, it was through fundamentally, taking my kids to the beach or going out to Enchanted Rock in Texas and taking these long hikes that I just could just sense that there's something more to this life. So check, I think there's a creator. I don't understand it, but check, I really do believe and I can reconcile based on that information that there was a creator. And there's a great book called Hidden Messages, and it's from I'm going to chop this name, Masaru Emoto. And it talks about this hidden messages in water and how, and you can see these beautiful crystals. But he did this really powerful experiment where he put rice in a jar with water. And there are two jars. And one, he spoke to a jar in positive terms. You're great. You're this, you're that. And then there's another one where you're horrible. You're awful. And the jar that where he constantly spoke negative vibes to it, negative words, negative things, it begins to get moldy and corrupted. And then the other jar is the rice is fluff and it's white and it's vibrant. And it's just this short read. I recommend you get it. Again, another kind of conclusion that we are made of something more powerful than just bones and body and a brain. And so, now my next question was, all right, God, okay, I get that there's a creator here. I need to understand who you are and what you're about. Are you some punishing God waiting for us to screw up? And is there really heaven and hell? And how do we reconcile those aspects of who God is painted to be? And that's where the book Return to Love came into. And her basic message was everything starts and ends in love. And it's not our fear of, what we are. right now or who God is. It's our fear of what it could mean for us, meaning it could be such a beautiful relationship with God. It could be such a beautiful life for ourselves that we're too scared to even go near it because our own self worth doesn't consider ourselves worthy. And that was a moment where I said, God, I bet you are a loving God. And we as man, because we're so hard on ourselves and hard on others, we just can't begin to see you through any other lens but our own critical lens. So I'm going to take off my glasses, God, and I'm going to start looking at you as this incredibly loving God. And that helped me reconcile when this aspect of bad things happening to me, because I started realizing that a controlling marriage or an abusive relationship between a parent child or an abusive relationship between a couple starts with control. That's an abusive relationship, right? What's not abusive is I love you. I want you in my life, but I don't need you in my life. And I feel that with God. I love you, Darlene. I want you to be near me. I want you to do that, but I will never force you because we're not in an abusive relationship. We're in a divine, loving relationship. And if you choose to hurt yourself, I'm going to be sad, but I'll be here to wrap my arms around you when you're ready to come back and we can have a conversation. And by the way, you have no idea the unlimited possibilities that I have for you. And that shift in thinking, taking the human flawed perception, you know how we judge people before we really get to know them. And then sometimes we get to know them and we're like, God, I really like that person. That's exactly how it was for me and God. And so I came to this point where I thought, I bet you if he can create this earth, if he can create this planet and all the intertwining ecosystems of how things work, how the ocean works, how there's animals on the bottom of the ocean, how the birds fly, and how the trees grow and create oxygen that we breathe, how we are made of water, and what is said to us and what we say to ourselves really resonates within. Oh my God, how much better of a life could I have if I begin to have this you hear that thunder? If I begin to have this beautiful conversation with them and say, hey, I'm just curious. I'm really interested and I feel good about being an entrepreneur. So, do you think you could help me in building my business? By the way, I've got these wounds and I want to be healed from those wounds. Do you think we could work on that together? And I started having these very authentic conversations with God. And I began to see after effects of those conversations. So I began to say to God, you know what? I'm really struggling with my kids right now. And I am completely lost. I don't know what to do. And I would feel like I would have instant knowledge of step away from the relationship for a little bit or engage with this one. This one needs you right now. Pick up the phone and call this child. This intuitive sense. And I know it's an innate gift, but I think that God really speaks through that for me. And I begin to see and shift things. Same things with my business. That employee, something's going on with that employee. God, help me talk to that person, help me reconcile. And I felt like God and I became business partners. And I mentor a few people, and I've told them, God's your greatest business partner. Ask him for help. Stop trying to put it all on yourself. So this relationship began to cultivate, and there's some technical aspects of it, and I've got some notes here that I'm going to share. Where is God now? What does he look like? How does he exist? And I do believe that God is a spiritual being. I don't know if he's up here or around here. I'm not going to come to those conclusions, where heaven and hell is and all of that. I'm not even sure that I really believe in hell, but I will say that I definitively believe in this omnipresent creator, this God that's very loving and on a beautiful journey with me. And I can tell you, I feel that presence often. And I feel that tug on my heart of saying, hey, I think you need to do this, or I think you need to do that. And I believe that if God could create this gigantic world, he can create a life of blessings and joy and excitement. And yes, there's difficulty in this world, but that comes from our own human choice. We get to decide what this world's going to look like. We get to decide if countries will go hungry. We get to decide if we have poor government. We get to decide if we will have a healthy life or a bad life. And let me tell you, I've gone through some challenges in my life and overcame, but there's people that have gone through far worse than I have ever gone through and have come out of more challenging difficulties than I have. Nothing is impossible with God really there walking beside you. That's what I fundamentally believe. And again, everybody's got to have their own journey. And if you don't think that you need God, you probably won't find him. I think it's really has to come to this reflection and this questioning of how do we exist? And if we exist, what does that mean for my life? And some people just don't want to think that hard. And I get it and I understand it, but he's there. And I say he in the sense that I use that term generically, but I say God is there. And anytime you're ready, ask the question and then watch out. So I would say religiously and finding your religion to me is your own journey. And I separate going to church and getting the support you need and the relationship with God in two different categories, because it's so important in business that we have a support group, right? We need to be around a mentor. We need to be around other entrepreneurs. We need to learn from our own industry. So we need a support group. Sometimes as moms, when we're early in our stages of raising children, we need a support group, right? We need our friends to say, hey, when this happened, what did you do? We need a support group. Same thing in your spiritual life, going to church or being around a body of believers. And when I say believers, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about fanatical religion. I'm just talking about people that really believe that there is a spiritual essence to ourselves. When you're around that, it really gives you the strength to keep going through the week. And, when we go to Mexico, we go to a church called Beach Church, Cabo Beach, and Pastor Rick, I consider him my pastor. I can reach out to him at any time. And my sister-in-law says it so well. He talks real talk. He just talks about navigating through this life with this partner called God right by your side. And when I go there, I always feel like my tank has been filled so I can come back and be strong in my faith, strong in my life, strong in my marriage, strong as a mother, as a grandmother, and really march through as a boss, as a mentor, and march through this life because I feel that sense of strength because of that support group of other people that believe just like I do. So, the aspects of that spiritual life and that kind of baseline of core values that it brings to the table helps you in making business decisions. And I'll just talk about this because when you really understand this unconditional love that you get from God, then you begin to operate in an element of unconditional love. And when you understand this no judgment, you operate in this element of no judgment and you become a servant leader in your business. You are serving your employees to make their life better. you're teaching them, you're helping them grow, you're mentoring them, you're giving them the skill sets they need to thrive in life, you're giving them a salary, right? You are helping your clients in whatever aspects of products and services. Hopefully, you're focused on something that's genuinely helping them be better in life and in business, right? And you are giving back to your community because small businesses tend to be the ones that give most back to the communities that they live within. And so you're giving back to nonprofits, you're volunteering, et cetera. So all of that servant leadership is part of the core value of having a beautiful spiritual life. And I would also say that that capacity to pray with your spouse or to pray for your children as well, and know you've got a partner in hand that's going to help you with any conflicts that are dynamics that are happening in your business and your family, but also to help them when you pray for your children and you pray for your spouse, you're helping them in their own life, even if you can't talk to them, even if you can't be around them, you're doing something for them. And that again, another part of a spiritual life, creating those, implementing those core values that come out of a spiritual life, right? So you begin to see yourself and the other people around you so much differently. There is there is what they call the fruits of the Holy Spirit in the Bible. So just want to share this with you: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self control. That's what I call the core values of having a spiritual life. Who doesn't want that in their life? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self control. Who doesn't want that in their life? And that's the foundation by which we try to build our business, right? We teach our managers, look, you got to have patience, you got to have self control. You can't go off on these employees. We teach our employees, you got to have patience, you got to have self control, you got to have a peace of mind of working together as a team in terms of collaboration. We definitely want that in our family. We definitely want that between our family members and our children, right? So this is why I feel like sometimes society is so lost because they don't have the spiritual aspect of knowing there's so much more to this life than what's in front of you right now. And there's so many opportunities for you to be and do so much more if you could really go inside and grow that spiritual aspect and be guided by that internal spirit and that great relationship with God. And He has your best interest at heart. But like any normal, loving relationship, He will never control you and say, come to me. And if you don't, you're going to hell, or you're a bad person. I never want to have anything to do with you. He will reconcile with you at any time you want to reconcile. And it's a very difficult topic to talk about because I'm so private about my spiritual life. I don't like to share a lot of it because I feel like I'm still learning, and I don't like to share things when I'm in the process of learning. But I did want to take some time to say, hey, as a 360 entrepreneur, and especially if you're in this real challenging but fulfilling relationship and being business with your partner, or you're married to an entrepreneur as well, having that spiritual relationship with God gives you some reprieve. You can put the weight on God while you focus on what you're good at. You can say, you know what, God, I don't really know how to handle this right now. So I'm just going to give this to you, and I'm going to allow you to work through this with our business or with our family or with our marriage. And I'm going to keep moving forward. And by the way, if there's anything I need to do, please enlighten me. And you'll be surprised at how people or situations will come in and enlighten you, and you'll shift your own behavior to become better. And you become better. God's working on the other person, and things can be resolved. So I just want to double check all of my notes and make sure that I'm covering everything. Watching time here. Okay. All right. let's just talk really about how to talk to God. Because I think it's very important because I think, especially if you grow up in a very traditional Catholic church or some sort of structured religion, or if you've never been religious whatsoever, it might be challenging to figure out, okay, so what do I do now? And I would say that as if any loving relationship, you can be your complete self. And with God, you can be your complete self. And there are times when I am just uh, praying in bed or I'm standing in the shower and I'm just having a conversation and say, God, this relationship is really frustrating me. And I am super angry right now. And I need you to either show me what I need to do better or I need you to address the other person. But please enlighten both of us so we can get past this because I love this person. Right. That's literally how I talk to God. I just have a bloody conversation with him. And I think that the love that I feel inside, knowing that I've got somebody I can talk to at all times, at any time of the day, is very powerful. So, just when it comes to a starting point, just like you would talk to anybody that you really trust, is exactly how you can talk to God. And so, what religion is best for me, never going to dictate that. I think there's a calling for that. You have to really decide what religion is good for you. There's some people that go to Catholic Church, there's some people that go to Methodist, some that go to Church of God, some that are a Buddhist. They believe in the Buddhist practice and they find a connection with God in that sense. And some go to non denominational. That is not my place. That is your journey. It's something that you have to do. Um, in terms of that belief system, I have my own thoughts on that. All I'm encouraging you to do is not say you better get into church or else. What I'm saying is let's just start with building on the relationship with God and knowing that there is a creator that loves you and has your best interest at heart and wants more for your life than you probably even want for your own self. And how exciting is that can be, and be curious and challenge him, challenge God, say, if you're real, prove it to me. And I say that in the essence that I think nature and I think how we function as a body proves it to you. So I say respectfully, say, prove it to me. I had to tell God, I really don't know, given even all of this, if you exist. But if you'll show me who you are, I'm happy to listen. Right. Again, a mutual relationship of love. And I really believe that God and me, we have a very beautiful mutual relationship. So it's okay. All right, let's talk about how to start a new life. Let's say you're struggling in specific aspects of your life and you're not sure if you want to, go down that route of having a spiritual life. And there could be a lot of reasons. One, you don't know what people are going to think about you, what they're going to say if you start doing that. Two, maybe you're struggling with certain aspects of your life and you're embarrassed and you think things have to be perfect before you do that. Three, like you might be scared and think that, well, I need to stay in control of my life and I don't want to even assume that a God or somebody else has other aspects or intentions for my life that don't align with what I want to do. Is God going to make me do things I don't want to do? So, the first thing in that is that, part of the core values of having a spiritual life that I see is this ability to have internal strength to be true to yourself. And I think that is a core value that's missing in this society. With social media, everybody is apt to be not their true selves. And I think that's a moral injustice. People are afraid of cancel culture. They're afraid of speaking out loud about their own core values and their wishes. They stay hidden. And that is one here in America. That's not in alignment with our Constitution and our ability to have free speech, right? But two, it's not in alignment with who we are as human beings. We should be able to express ourselves without judgment, but people have to set the example first. And so if you're an entrepreneur, you're used to leading the way. Um, that's why I think entrepreneurs are great, could be great politicians, and we should have more of them because we are not scared of failure. So we should not be scared of what other people think. We just need to be true to ourselves. And even me taking a step out like this is just being true to myself. And I'm here to tell you, I don't have all the answers. I can only tell you what my journey was. And I just don't really care what anybody thinks. I've got children, some that believe in God, some that don't know, and some that don't care. Um, I'm not worried about what they think, and they're not worried about what I'm doing. And that's the way life should be, right? So that's that. So we need leaders in this world to be true to themselves, and others will fall in line. The more that rise up and be true to themselves, more will fall in line and do the same thing. So that's one. Two, let's say you want everything to be perfect. You're struggling with something. Maybe you're struggling with maybe you had an affair. Maybe your business is going broke. Maybe you are struggling with addiction, something along those lines. Listen, the most beautiful aspect that I've seen in my life has seen healing happen in asking God, I need help with, I had a child that was struggling with addiction. And I said, I need help. And now he's doing phenomenal. He's doing phenomenal. And I know it doesn't always end up that way, but then that might lead you to another purpose in your life. Here's the other thing. Thinking that God is ready to start making you do things you don't want to do uh is, I think it's the biggest misconception of how God really is. I think he is so loving that he sees the beauty of the gifts that you have, and he just wants to help you exploit those gifts. And when you've got those gifts, you really enjoy doing what you're doing. And this is a prime example. I love sharing my knowledge and helping other people. And so I have the ability to sit behind my desk on a Saturday morning and talk. And I believe that ability to do that is a gift I've been given. And so I don't believe God's out there hindering me to do what I love to do. No, I mean, obviously, if it's bad for me, you know, God might intervene a little bit. So I do believe in angels. I do believe that they're there to help you as well, and so they'll help navigate you to the most positive and most beautiful aspects of life. And I believe they're God's little working bees to help us in this life. So I don't think you have to worry about how to start a new life. I think it's just even taking the first baby step, and you'll be guided if you stay open minded. And again, those beautiful core values of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self control. Who doesn't want those values in their life? All right, guys. So I just want to encourage you to look at the rewards of a spiritual life instead of the negative. And it's easy to say, well, the churches do this and they take money, and, these big churches, these pastors are, living in big mansions, and, while people suffer around the world, or why is there suffering around the world? That's all irrelevant. The relationship I'm talking about is between you and God. And remember, the more that people do what's right in their life and focus on themselves instead of looking externally, just focusing on what you can control, the more those issues will be reversed. It's that plain and simple. We spend so much time doing nothing. We're not taking action. We're not involved locally. We're not helping the problems in this world, but we're ready to criticize. We're ready to be on social media complaining. So you have to know that first it starts with you and what you're doing and your autonomy to make the right decisions. You don't have to go to those types of churches, but having that relationship with God, and then where is your place in this world to make a difference? What are you doing to make a difference in someone's life? How are you helping the poor? How are you helping the unfortunate? Don't worry about all that. That's all noise. That's all an excuse. You have to start here and inside. Don't let the behaviors of others dictate how you're going to behave. That's not what we do as entrepreneurs. As entrepreneurs, we have an autonomous mission in life to take charge in our business and rule our business the way we need to rule it. We are not controlled by outsiders saying you can't do it. Actually, I think anytime somebody tells me I can't do it, I'm more apt to say, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to tell me that. So, take autonomy of and control of your own spiritual life, and don't use what other people do as an excuse to not really explore what a spiritual life could be for you. So I would say, and don't judge other people's journeys either, because you don't know where they're at unless you're in their home living with them. You really don't know where they're at. So don't judge. Okay. Anyway, I am going to let you guys go. I really appreciate this time with you. It's been very rewarding. Next month, we are focused on mom guilt, what it is, what we're going to do about it, how to let it go. Boy, do I know mom guilt. This is going to be a masterclass in mom guilt. So we're going to deal with that, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for joining me on this Saturday. And do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube or Rumble channel, whichever, and any of our social media platforms that you would like to subscribe to. Our Facebook, our Instagram page, we're on Pinterest even. Subscribe. You can sign up for our newsletter. I'm so excited. We're getting our newsletter out this week, and it's going to have some great inspirational messages. No, I'm sorry, not this week, next week. Some great inspirational messaging, and it's going to be rewarding. I'm going to give you the tools that I've used to succeed in this 360 entrepreneurial space. And I've had some great mentors. The mentor that was a co-founder of LinkedIn, I had a great I would say Pastor Rick's been a great spiritual mentor. Gary Hoover founded Hoover Institute. He was actually the one that founded Bookstop that sold to Barnes and Nobles, and he's helped me through things a long time ago in the past. A guy named Jack Daly that helped me with sales strategy and all of these things. So I'm going to help you with all these aspects, but more importantly, I'm going to help you with what's going on in here so that you can be strong out there. Okay. All right, guys, lots of light and love. Consider the question, God, are you real? And can we have a little bit of a conversation today? Talk to you soon.